Thank you. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for June the 15th for the regular meeting and also for a text amendment to the zoning ordinance. 2 sets of minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes for June 15th, 2022 Planning Commission regular meeting minutes, June 15th, 2022 Planning Commission public hearing minutes for PPC 2022-2022, or 22, it's a lot of twos. Township initiated text amendment to zoning ordinance 78 industrial complex articles 19 and 27.
Support.
Motion, support by Bracken. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Before we approve the agenda, I've got a comment to make relative to the master plan public hearing, which was not scheduled for this evening, but it is scheduled for our next meeting on July the 20th at 7:05. There has been some misinformation communicated that the public hearing was supposed to be this evening. That is not the case. The actual notice of public hearing is set for July the 20th, which is in 2 weeks. We will take public comments at that scheduled meeting as required by the statute. We have, however, received some written comments previously, 6 of them, as a matter of fact, from the Oakland County Economic Development Department, the Road Commission for Oakland County, the Water Resources Commission, Gary Roberts, Donnie Steele, and Catherine Kennedy. Those written comments will be reviewed by the Planning Commission at that public hearing on July the 20th. So with that, take a motion to approve the agenda as submitted this evening.
So moved.
There's support to approve the agenda?
Support.
Motion, support. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We do have a public hearing this evening at 7:05. It is currently 7:03. The public hearing is for a special land use request for a gas station and a drive-through located on Joslin Road. We will schedule that hearing to open at 7:05. But we'll move on to the next item. Any brief public comment on 9 agenda items this evening? If not, we will proceed. There is no items under the consent agenda. We'll take a brief 1-minute recess while we wait for the 7:05 agenda item to take place. As to their proposal. Following that, we will take public comment from anybody that wishes to be heard relative to the request. If you are recognized, please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes in which to make any comments relative to your to the public hearing. Following the public hearing, we'll adjourn that hearing to our new business, which is item 7A on the agenda, which is a continuation of the public hearing. We will receive comments from our planning consultant and our engineer, and then we will have discussion amongst the planning commission relative to the particular item. So now it is 7:05, so we can proceed now with the with the request for the public hearing. Excuse me. This is This is for PPC 2218 at 3850 Joslin Road, which is a special land use request for a gas station with a drive-through located at 3850 Joslin Road, being parcel 0928 376 031. The applicant would like to make a presentation relative to his request, their request.
Hi, my name is Bruce Calhoun. I'm with Creekwood Architecture, 1111 Creekwood Trail. This is Keith Ford, the owner of the gas station. First, I'd like just let Keith just give a brief synopsis of what he's looking to do at the filling station. Then I'll address all the concerns that were written up by the planners, and we can go from there, if that's okay.
Hi, Keith Ford, owner of 3850 Joslin Road, and looking to redevelop the site to a brand-new site with a drive-through. I think it'll be great for the community, great for the township, and I think will be a big improvement. So, thank you.
First off, what we had before, if you can bring up the existing. See that it's a small gas station with 3 pump islands, and there's a screen wall located around the property on the north and west side, and there's a green belt that runs along that west side on our side of that screen wall. What we're proposing to do, if you can go to the next one. One more. We're looking to add a larger C-store and a lease space, and the lease space would have a drive-through for possibly a coffee shop or something along those lines. We're adding a pump island and extending the canopy, and with that, we're paving into the green belt, but again, we're staying on our side of the screen wall for the drive-through lane and the loading coming around the back side. We would be making major site improvements with the building, of course, demolishing the existing and providing a whole new building. You can see the elevations of what it's going to look like in the floor plan. We're also adding additional parking. Through the plan review, we got a few comments from the planners and engineers, and I can address those one at a time. The first one from the OHM. We'd like to delay the detention calculations. They wanted us to have preliminary detention calculations. We provided a detention area at the lower south side of the site, and it pretty much encompasses that whole asphalt area, and that would be underground detention. And they wanted us to provide detention for the entire site, not just the new, which I've never had to do before. Usually it's just the new. The reasoning behind it was all the water just went out onto the road. So we would be detaining that water and reducing it at a restricted amount. It would then go into what's called a barracuda. It's a oil separator that if there's an oil spill or something like that, it takes care of that, which the site doesn't have now. Then it would discharge into the drainage ditch and go across the road. And I believe from there it goes again to the east across the road. The site, because it's so low, the ditches are so shallow, there's a catch basin structure to the north, but it's also very shallow. We'd have to drain these into a pumping system that would then pump them out and take them over across the road. The second part is a traffic study. They requested that we have a traffic study. Because we're required to have so many variances on this, we wanted to hold off having the traffic study until after we obtain the variances. It's like an $8,000 to $10,000 item. We felt that the traffic study, no matter what it came back resulting from, it would result in the driveways and not really anything internally on the site. Sidewalks for ADA ramps, they requested that we put ADA tactile ramps at each one of the sidewalk locations. The sidewalks are all pretty much flush with the drives, so we just put the tactile ramps on there, and that's all noted on the site plan now. We provided the barrel-coated stormwater. They asked about the grease trap. They wanted a grease interceptor shown from the restaurant. That will provide a GB50, which is a grease interceptor. And that, we're just doing a preliminary sizing on that because we really don't know what's going into the lease space. And that would dictate what size that grease trap would be. Pavement sections have been updated per their recommendations. Sidewalks revised at the front of the store. We shortened the parking spaces to 20 feet. That made the sidewalks 8 feet. They were only requesting 7. We placed some bumper blocks ahead of the ramp going into the sidewalk. They wanted a revised ADA ramp, which we did. We took it 2 different ways. Drive-through lane, he requested that we widen the drive-through lane to 11 foot. Typically, we only make them 9 foot. He wanted it 11, which we did, and just shortened the bypass lane. Located the water and sanitary sewers from the new building out to the property line. It's at a preliminary design at this point. I had the wrong location map on the cover sheet, which we updated. The existing survey, we were utilizing an existing survey that was done a few years back. The person that did the survey, the company, is no longer in business. So we can't have them update the survey with the benchmarks. And we would be required to have a whole new survey once we get into all the engineering as far as the detention and everything like that with benchmarks and everything else that they would be required to build it. And that, again, is probably about a $10,000 item. We just wanted to delay that because of the variances. The water main was also verified as a 12-inch. Landscaping, the apple trees that I had on the west side of the site, he mentioned that he thought that would be a maintenance issue for the neighbor. So we changed those to arborvitae and doubled the quantity because the arborvitae is smaller, and located those on the west side of the existing fence to soften that fence. The other items that were mentioned, speaker box on the menu board. It would be located right on the menu board, and depending on the tenant, when that lease space gets developed, we'll make sure that the decibels aren't over 60. Variance is required for the parking and the setback along the screening wall. That gives us 31 cars, required 31 provided, including the spaces at the pump. The building coverage on the lot is 13.2%, which is well within the guidelines. The existing asphalt to property line, there's no room for trees out in the right-of-way because it's all existing. We'd have to cut away asphalt, and we wouldn't have any circulation around the pump islands if we did that. We had provided some trees in the right-of-way at one point, which would have required permission from the road commission, but they suggested that we just remove those, so we did. Interior landscaping, there's really no room for interior landscaping. There's none provided now. And we do have a strip of landscaping on the south side of the building between the drive-thru and the parking. That's the only landscape area that we have within that. And there's another one on the north side from the parking to the screen wall. The light poles will have cutoffs so that none of the light spread will go beyond the property line. And we also have the screen wall along that property line, which also aids in cutting that off. There'd be a timing panel put on the electrical site for the lighting once we get into the final design of the electrical. Trash enclosures, we've raised those to a foot above the dumpster itself, and the receptacles will have lids on them. And that's pretty much it. I think we're definitely improving the site, not only aesthetically, but we're also improving the site as far as the engineering on the site, because right now, like I said, it all just drains right onto the road, and we'd be providing detention. So we're going to be making a lot better development in the long run. But in order to do that, we have to obtain the variances. So I guess right now we're looking for your approval on the conceptual site, that we move on for the variances.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this request? Name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Sandy Walker, 2565 Mueller Road. I live right behind this thing going on here. And my property has a creek running through it that comes off of Judah Lake. So I'm concerned of, am I going to get any, I heard him talking, I don't know anything about what's going on here, other than I heard stuff about grease interceptors, grease traps, pump stations. Where's all this stuff going to go? It's not going to go into Judah Lake, right? I don't know. I'm asking, I don't know. And I just want to say, this is a statement. I'm blinded by driving up Baldwin and Joslin these days. The lights everywhere are so big and bright and giant. I'm asking you guys, as the Planning Commission people, to kind of consider that. The lights are so bright everywhere you go now, where I live. I don't know if you live around here or not, I suppose you do. But I guess this will be nicer than what's there. I mean, it's a cute little gas station. We all go there as a neighborhood and everything. But I just want to make sure that none of this stuff is going to go into the lake and then start coming down the creek on my property and hitting the wetlands on Baldwin and Maybe.
Thank you very much.
And I had to come up here because I could not hear him. Sorry, I can't hear very well, so I had to come up to hear him.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak? Just a minute. Hear the rest of the public.
Hello, my name's Catherine Kennedy. I live in Rochester, Lake Orion. And I'm actually concerned with expansions of gas stations at all next to wildlife and wetlands. And I was very disappointed when the Firestone was built on Lake Orion, right across from the Kmart, Kroger recently, when the county has Brownsfield money being used to fix the oil change system that was at the Sears at the Clark's Kmart location. So there's a lot of hundreds of thousands of dollars that was spent to clean that up. And that's actually on the other side of the lake. This is actually closer to the lake than that. So I think it's very, I mean, you have to grandfather what's there and protect what's there. I don't think we should be expanding any oil change businesses or things that would have that type of issue where they require controlling things that could do permanent damage to our natural habitat and wildlife that we enjoy and treasure around here. So I think it really needs to be, anything that's the west of Jocelyn Road is very sensitive. And I'm assuming that maybe it's on that side, but I wouldn't think, I was surprised there was some building going on right at the very edge of Jocelyn that I saw, and I didn't expect it right up against Judah Lake. It looked like they were digging there, right? So that actually needs to be protected, and I would really prefer we start to establish some land conservancies for those areas so we don't become invaded by other regions taking over our area. And we really need to protect it ourselves, and the only way I see that we are going to be able to do so long-term for the future generations is to make sure that those areas that are sensitive are already captured in a land conservancy to benefit the citizens of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Not, would the applicant like to respond to any?
Yes, Bruce Calhoun, Creekwood Architecture. Just to answer, I think, both those concerns, I think the township engineers are very sensitive to those situations because the requirements that they're putting on us for detaining the water that is now just running off the site with no restriction whatsoever and no protection whatsoever, we are now going to have to detain that and hold it back and reduce it at a lesser rate. and also have a protection device on there so that if there is a spill, that we can contain that and not let it just free flow into who knows where. And with that, with those improvements, there's a lot of cost with those, to do those improvements. And with that, we need just to offset that with a building and an extra pump island that will, pay for that basically down the road. But I think what we're doing is 100% improvement from what's there, because there's no protection whatsoever there now. And if it just kept going down the road like it is right now, there never would be. It would just continue to be what it is. Thank you.
Thank you. No other comments from the public? Is the Planning Commission like to make any comments or questions at this point, or wait until the next item on the agenda?
I just have one thing to say about a grease trap or a grease interceptor. I know this because I've owned a commercial kitchen, and it is to catch that stuff so that it doesn't get into our sewer systems and whatnot, and it is handled in a completely different way. So no, that's what that is there to prevent.
Okay. No other comments? I'll close the public hearing and move back to the regular meeting agenda. And we have on that item 7A, which is under new business, being PPC 2218 at 38550 Joslyn Road, the special land use request for a gas station with a drive-through and site plan located at 3850 Joslyn Road, parcel 0928-376-031. We could ask the planner to make his report, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to go over our report dated June 20th. The applicant has given a good introduction into what is proposed. The gas station itself obviously is existing, but they're proposing to basically reconstruct the site substantially. Gas stations are special land use as well as drive-through restaurants. So that's one new use that's being added to the site by this proposal would be a drive-through restaurant. So we have standards associated with that in addition to the special land use standards. So a summary of our review starts off with deficiencies that would require action by the Zoning Board of Appeals. That includes the drive-through building setback where 100 feet is required versus 30 feet proposed. The drive-through maneuvering lane is supposed to be set back a minimum of 50 feet, whereas this is proposing 20 feet. A landscape green belt of at least 30 feet in width, except where ingress or egress drives are located, is required. That is not provided. Covered trash areas are required within the rear yard. There are 2 trash enclosures proposed. One is in the south front yard and the other one is in the north side yard. Loading and unloading areas are to be located in the rear or side yard of a non-residential district. And the building exceeds the maximum height limit of 25 feet in the GB district, and there's no interior parking lot landscaping. There are some items that the Planning Commission could potentially waive if they felt it was warranted. One deals with the number of parking spaces, 28 compliant spaces versus 31 required. And then the Planning Commission can also, at their discretion, waive or modify the requirement for interior landscaping in cases where a parking lot consists of only one aisle and the area surrounding the lot is heavily landscaped, or where existing off-street parking drives or structures are located on the parcel. And then some other additional highlights from our review in terms of outstanding items, and some of these were mentioned by the applicant. Speaker box not shown on the applicant would need to provide information on the decibel levels. 3 spaces along the north side do not comply with the 30-foot residential district setback. The applicant should provide information on the building coverage percentage. A mixture of evergreen and deciduous trees shall be planted at a rate of 1 tree for every 3,000 square feet or portion thereof of landscaped open space. Proposed greenbelt areas should be located on the subject property, not within the right-of-way. The right-of-way is supposed to be a green area. The trees are supposed to be planted on the property. 7 trees are required on the site within the Joslyn Road greenbelt. 7 trees are required on the Hammersley greenbelt, in addition to the wall or the fence there is an existing wall that is located. However, the ordinance speaks to some type of decorative fence or berm or other type of screening along the roadways as well. No interior parking lot landscaping is proposed. Applicants shall update the photometric plan to show the light levels at the property line and provide the average light levels for the site in accordance with the ordinance. Need to include the timing of the lighting on the photometric plan. And then we're deferring to engineering to basically address the 4 driveways that currently exist and whether or not those exceed what is deemed the minimum necessary to serve the site. That's a summary of our review.
Thank you. Mark, could you give us a review of your study?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our letter of June 22nd was our first review of the site plan. Overall, I mean, the site's feasible. We did have 14 items that were indicating that the plan was deficient in meeting the township ordinances and engineering standards as currently presented. But it sounds like the applicant is willing and can accommodate those items. Item number 1, we did ask for the entire site to be detained. I understand that there may be some small areas that are not feasible. We wouldn't ask that the applicant include a pump station to capture those areas, so we can work with them to make sure that the majority of the site is detained. Generally, we do try to grandfather in existing sites if they have a system that's maybe designed to an older standard, but since this site doesn't have any detention at all, that was the reason for the ask, and given the nature of the business. So we want to see that stormwater collected, treated, and released at a lower rate. So, in short, we do want to see the plan revised to address all 14 of our comments. It sounds like the applicant is willing to do that. It's just a matter of, do you want to see it back again, or or do you want us, I guess, to handle it administratively? I'll leave that up to you, I guess. But,
Okay, thank you.
sure.
And I'll open it up to the Planning Commission.
I will just say that our engineer brought up 14 issues of concern. Our planner brought up another 10 or a dozen of them of concern. The variances are significant. Some of the largest variance requests I've heard of in 7 years on the commission. At the very least, they need to come back with a cleaned up plan to address all those issues before I'm going to approve anything.
I'd like to just make a couple comments. With the demo of the building, it's almost like we're starting with a brand-new site. And it's kind of hard to imagine that with a brand-new site, we're looking at all these different waivers that are being proposed. So it's something that the Zoning Board of Appeals would have to justify in terms of making waivers on a site like that. This is a gasoline service station. It's not it's a gas-only station, correct? There's no service. And do we know what type of restaurant is suggested?
We don't at this time. We have another location that we've done something similar, and that's a tropical food. But we don't know, they have not committed on it. Can you hear me? Yep. It is a gas station and convenience store only, not a service. And we do not know for sure in the end cap. It could possibly be a tropical smoothie if approved.
So we don't know if there will be dine-in or if it's drive-through only.
It would be both.
It'll be both, so we have to take into account the type of parking that would be required to accommodate the restaurant as well as the service station
Yeah.
area.
The one that we have now in Ortonville with the tropical smoothie, they do about 90% drive-through. So it's not much inside dining anymore, but again, we don't know for sure what would be there.
So it's like, okay, so we don't know either.
Correct.
So we're kind of like at a
Yeah.
standstill as to what type of
It's
use.
just tough. We're putting a lot of money investing into this, as you probably know, and it's been something we've been trying to work on for years to try to get the funds and stuff together, and having the end cap just helps provide that, us to being able to do that.
Another question is, with the canopies being proposed you're going to add new canopy or take down the existing ones and put up the new ones?
You know, we haven't actually spoke to a contractor on that yet, what he would do. So I don't know that answer. I know that our architect asked about the measurement of it. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, my question on that is, or my concern on that is the lighting that would be coming in with the canopies and how late they would be on.
Under the lighting ordinance, we would adhere to the new lighting ordinance, or either the existing canopy or a new canopy. What we're proposing right now is just to extend the existing canopy. The fire marshal mentioned that he wanted it 13'6", and we're actually 14 foot at the lowest end, and as it approaches the south, it actually gets higher. So, but as far as the lighting, it would adhere to whatever standards are required for the township, and we'd probably be replacing those with LED. Yeah, but one other thing, just we touch base on the lease space. When you do a lease space on a building, no matter where it is, in a strip mall or anything else, you really don't know what's going to go into that. And even if you do know what's going to go in there today, that doesn't mean they're going to be there tomorrow. And it's always goes back to the planning department when that happens, and they review that to make sure whatever's going to go in there adheres to the parking. And right now, we have the right amount of parking for that, with the exception of the 3 that we require a variance for.
Derek?
I may have missed it, but you said you're adding a 4th island in the proposal?
To the north of the site, yes.
Okay, and is that going to involve another gas underground tank being added?
No, sir. All the tanks underground are staying. Those were replaced a few years ago, so they're all, no additional tanks are added.
So that 4th island is going to drain from the existing tank, or be fed
Yes,
from the existing?
it'll be
tank?
connected to, the underground pipes will connect to the existing underground tank.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a question of the planners. Some of their parking count is included the space at the pump island. Is that what we've done in the past? I mean, the 30 spaces includes like 7 or 8 or 10 spaces at the pump islands.
We believe that's what had been done at Speedway when that redeveloped, as they did allow those spaces because those cars are utilizing.
As part of the
Yeah.
parking count?
If I may, the reasoning behind that is they figure that the person that is going into the C-store is also the person that's filling up a big pump.
Okay.
Get that.
Any other comments from the planning commission?
Mr. Chair, I have a question. Did you indicate that the wastewater and discharge is not, there's no trap for it at this time?
This time, no, it just slopes right off the site onto the road right away. into the two little ditches in the front, right on the corner of our site.
And Mark, is that correct?
Well, I think just to clarify, the current site is hooked up to sanitary sewer for municipal discharge,
Okay.
domestic discharge. But the stormwater runoff currently just sheet flows off of the site into the roadside ditches.
And that was allowed in past practices by somebody someplace?
At some point in time, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate, it sounds like what you're going to do will fix that at least. I have a lot of questions about all the other aspects. You have a lot of moving parts here.
We do have a lot of moving parts, but the problem is we have an existing piece of land that's only so big. And in order to improve the site, we're encroaching on those little areas to do it. And it does involve variances to get that, to make it work.
Right, well, you sound like a very competent architect. You know what you're getting into. I mean, you're not coming here, oh my goodness, look what we found. You saw what was going to be like. And you're going to be asking us and the zoning board to grant you a lot of stuff.
Yes, we are asking for a lot of stuff on the variances. But again, it's an existing site and it's the only way we can improve it. We can't just go in there and build a new building to replace the existing one and not improve the site in a way that's going to justify paying off that building. So we got to ask for, to improve and expand in order to improve the site. It's got to be feasible to do, or it's just like a closed down, be a vacant building. One other thing we got to look at too is as far as the site lighting, I know that was mentioned. We will be shielding that light so it doesn't go onto a neighbor's property or anything like that. So we're trying to improve things, trying to make it as nice as we possibly can. But we do need circulation around the site, and we also need parking. So there's no way of doing it without the parking.
And on the subject of parking, does that include the proposed tasty freeze, whatever you said was the? I'm old, I don't know what tropical smoothies are, I know what a tasty freeze is. But that's kind of
Tropical
the,
smoothie is
no,
oh, I'm
I
sorry.
kind of know what it is. But does that include parking for that restaurant also?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you.
And I apologize that we are deficient as far as the amount of stuff that was required from the planner and engineer. It's just that we know we have to get a lot of variances. And in order to do all those things at this point, it requires an awful lot of money to be spent ahead of time. I mean, we're already like $16,000 to $20,000 into it right now. And if we don't get the variances, then that's all gone. So we just didn't want to spend the extra $16,000 to $20,000 just to be at the same point we are now. So we know that those things are deficient on the plan, but it's things that we will do for a final plan that'll be reviewed for the engineering as far as that goes. And most of it, I think it is engineering, and most of the other items, I'm sure the planner will agree that it addresses all of those.
Thank you.
So I guess the question is, what's the best option? Because they need to go in front of the ZBA first to get the
Right.
variances. And I know that in the past, we've denied unless the ZBA approved. However, we have a lot of outstanding issues. Would it be appropriate to because we definitely need to see it back. I know that you asked that question, and I think that we do. I mean, they have a lot of things, a lot of moving parts that aren't in place yet. And I wouldn't say, deny unless the ZBA approves the variances, and then you're good to go. So that's not something we can do. Can we postpone until after a ZBA meeting and then see it back here if they get those approvals?
Yes, I think we have the option to deny it outright, and then the applicant would go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and then he'd have to resubmit after the Zoning Board of Appeals approved or denied certain items.
Mr. Chair.
Or we could postpone without date to allow the applicant to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. As you indicated, there's a laundry list of items that they have to work on. and then come back to us without having to resubmit a new application. Ron?
Mr. Chair, it's my understanding that your past practice, when you have a situation like this with these variances, that it's denied, so that, and that's because that's what the ZBA is looking for, to have it, so that it becomes an appeal, and it goes to them, and then they can act on those variance items. If they get those variance items, then they come back to you with a new plan that's got everything up to date and reflects the variances that were granted.
Tammy?
But it's not considered a new application. So your denial in the past has been a denial for those items that are deficient,
Plan.
to give you the right to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. If you get those variances, or even if you don't, you could come back with a plan that met those if you didn't meet them. You're still the same application because you didn't deny the whole thing.
Okay.
You just denied the sections that they didn't meet.
So they would
So
not have to,
they've paid for 2 reviews, one review's been done, they'd go for a side course to the ZBA, depending on what happened with that, they would resubmit the plans, be re-reviewed, and be in front of you again.
okay. One of my concerns is that, as I indicated at the beginning, is that we're talking about the demolition of the site. So we're looking at basically, with the exception of the existing pumps, a brand-new building, which I think is a plus. But is the building too large on the site because of the number of variances that are being requested that could be alleviated by a smaller building of some kind? My comments, but I guess it's up to the commission to make a motion to approve or deny or postpone.
Okay, so just so I understand what Rod and Tammy were saying, is that if we deny this based on the specific outstanding issues that have to be addressed, they go before the ZBA and see what happens with the variances. They update the plan, reflecting the variance, depending on what the ZBA decides. They come back to us with a new plan, with the changes that we've requested, also recognizing any variance that were perhaps granted. And it's the same application. And then we go and we make a decision then. Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
yes.
Right. I mean, I think, I'm familiar with the piece of property. I understand what they want to do. If this building is completed, it'll be an improvement to what's there now. But we do have to follow the process. And, you know, the building footprint, that's something that they'll have to be addressed at the ZBA, you know, with the variances they're requesting, and then take it from there. But I think if we follow that process that we've just outlined, to me, that's the fairest approach to this at this point.
So a motion would be in order then.
What I just said. Yeah. Okay, are we ready? You good? So pipe in if I miss something, if I skip something. So would this be just for the special, starting at the top? the motions? Or how do you want to handle it? So really, I just want to disregard
You
this, right?
don't want to act on the special land use yet because you don't have enough information,
Right,
then
so
you're not
we're-
acting
we're-
on
Is
it.
there something on here about postponing is what I'm asking, some verbiage?
Well, deny.
But you,
Yeah.
Last page.
Do you,
Yeah,
okay, you would be
Yeah,
you're
it's at the
you're
bottom.
postponing action on
I
the
just don't-
special
I
land
can't
use.
remember it all.
You're going to postpone action on the special land use, and then you're going to deny the site plan based on the outstanding items that need to go before the zoning board of appeals. I believe that's what you're suggesting.
yeah. Okay. Right, okay, here's the motion. I move that the planning commission deny the special land use request. That's not ready.
Okay. Postpone,
Okay, I got the two mixed up.
right.
Okay, I move that the planning commission postpone the special land use request and deny the site plan based on the outstanding issues that were presented today by the township engineer and the township planner. For plans, dates, for planned, for plans, date stamped, received April 21st, 2022, for the following reasons. The applicant should go before the ZBA to address a number of variance issues and also address the outstanding issues that were presented, and then return to the planning commission with an updated plan reflecting any changes that are necessitated by the ZBA decisions and reflecting the corrections per the engineer and the planners. And then a decision will be made on the site plan at that time.
Is there support?
Support.
Motion and support. Any other discussion by the planning commission?
Mr. Chair, I would ask that the motion maker and seconder amend their motion and second to include the suggestion that you brought up about the size of the building. Because before these folks go to the zoning board, this might give them another opportunity to think about that. That perhaps if they shrunk the size of that building, some of those variances might not be necessary, or certainly wouldn't be as large as they're requesting, which might induce the ZBA to look more favorably on it. So could we sort of send that message to the parties and put that in the motion?
Hold on a second.
I feel like it's been addressed, but it shouldn't be in the motion. They can, maybe, I don't know. I hear what you're saying, and I'm hoping that they're hearing it as well from a ZBA member's mouth, that maybe, considering that size, but I'm not sure that putting it in the motion, that sort of sorry, I might be wrong. Go ahead, Rod.
It's really, the ZBA is there to make those determinations on ordinance modifications, so it'd be my suggestion that you leave the motion and let them make that determination based upon what they believe is appropriate, because that's what their specific role is, to address whether or not there's a practical difficulty.
Tammy?
And to support what the planner says, that they are forwarded our minutes when they come from Planning Commission and go to Zoning Board of Appeals, so they will be provided with the minutes, which are pretty close to verbatim minutes. So any conversation that has been conducted here would be within the minutes. The other comment I had was perhaps add to the motion that upon return, before appearing at the Planning Commission, those plans will be re-reviewed by the consultants.
I'd like to amend my motion based on what Tammy's comment about the review of the updated plan, if that comes through. And then we're not addressing the footprint in any way in the motion. Is that correct? At this point? Okay. So I amend my motion based on Tammy's comment.
Amend the support.
Okay, we have motion It's supported. Is there any comments from the public since we have a motion before us? Not? Call a roll.
Gross,
Yes?
St. Henry,
Yes.
Urbanowski,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Angel,
Yes.
Bracken.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the motion has been, the application has been denied, and the applicant has the opportunity to go to, before the Zoning Board of Appeals to resolve any variances. Okay, the next item on our agenda is unfinished business, 8A, PC 2021-07, five-year master plan update. I believe this is a result of a letter from the planning director relative to some property designations on the master plan.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Received a phone call from someone alerting me to the fact that they felt in our proposed future land use map that we had an error in what we were proposing. There's an area that currently is zoned railroad freight yard, and a portion of it is actually owned by the railroad. To the south of it is owned by an individual landowner, and we have the proposed future land use as utility-owned. And so, it was like owned by Bob Smith, and so to have it as a future land use of utility-owned, they felt was an incorrect proposed distinction. So I told them I would put it before you this evening for discussion.
So this is a correction reflecting existing ownership and land use. That would be just a map clarification.
If I might, so there's a couple of issues here. As Tammy Gerling indicated, there is a railroad track that is currently not operational that is adjacent to this property. There has been discussion that potentially that might be in the future used again. We don't know for sure, but there is the possibility that it could be. It's a question mark. So given that, as you recall, when we went through section by section, we changed this because when we looked at the zoning, it's currently zoned on the zoning map for railroad freight, okay? So the master plan previously had a different designation on there. But the issue was, okay, if it's zoned that way, there must have been a reason why no one's come forward asking to rezone this property. And the thought was it's adjacent to what could potentially be a future operating rail line. So I guess the question here is, should it just remain as it is, or maybe the other alternative would be having it go back to what the previous designation was, which was the single-family medium density, or something different. But that's before you for discussion. You have someone who's identified that with Tammy Gerling, and this is something for discussion.
There's an issue with the parcel being zoned recreational as well, according to this, right?
Yeah, so when I looked at the area, in front of you is a aerial map. It was given to you in your board book, and there are 3 parcels. There's one that fronts on Silver Bell that kind of has an oval configuration to it, and that is the one that is currently zoned railroad freight yard, and the proposed future land use has as utility owned. And that's the piece that I received the phone call saying, utility company doesn't own it. I owned it as a private piece of land, and I think you might have an error here. Then there's a middle piece that you can see in your aerial that actually looks like it might have some railroad lines through it, and that is currently zoned railroad freight yard and is owned by the railroad company. Then there's a piece further up that's above those to the north that you can almost see a power grid to, that is actually owned by a utility company, but the future land use has as recreation. So while we were looking in that area, That was not the one I had received the call on, it was the one to the south, but when I looked in this whole area, I thought perhaps the one to the north that you can see the utility should also be utility-owned instead of recreation.
So it's technically zoned correctly, the map is just wrong.
We're talking about the future land use map. That's all we're talking about is the future land use map.
We're not rezoning anything or proposing to rezone anything.
Within our master plan update that we're working on right now, there's a map called Future Land Use Map. And in there, it has it
Right.
as utility-owned, I'm sorry, it says recreation, and it is utility-owned.
But all of that green area to the north of that is zoned, on the zoning map is recreation. Because I'm looking at the interactive zoning map right now, and all of that is recreation. So the master plan aligns with the zoning, because that's all showing recreation
And
too.
that might be what we wanted, but since
Yeah.
we were already talking in this, and the three were kind of stacked on top of each other, and were three different things, privately owned, utility-owned, and utility-owned, what did we want it? All three, let's just talk about all three as long as we're talking in the area. But the only one I received the phone call on was the one furthest to the south that is privately owned by somebody, and it's not a utility company.
But the one to the north is owned by a utility company, but zoned recreational and listed as recreational, according to what Rod just said.
Correct, I'm looking at the zoning map, and it's all recreational, that property to the north.
The 008?
Yes.
Okay.
So then, would you recommend changing that to, in any way?
I don't see a reason to change any of the recreational area at this point, because you've got, first of all, no one's come and requested that you change that, so there's no overriding reason, unless you see there's an overriding reason, but it's been zoned recreational for a considerable amount of time. I don't know if there's, certainly nothing recent that's occurred, and I'm not, if someone were to come to you and present something that would be different from that, you would evaluate it, at that time to determine whether there's been conditions that have changed, but that's the current zoning, and so all this would do is align the master plan, because sometimes you're trying, maybe one is really the one to ultimately follow, which is your master plan, but if it looks like you've got an existing zoning situation which reflects something that might continue into the future, you might want to amend your master plan to reflect that, so that's what we were doing when we were studying that. I think the parcel to the south is more interesting in terms of the fact that it's in private ownership. It does not appear to be, for the most part, controlled by a railroad, and potentially that could develop under something different. So, but then again, if the railroad becomes active, maybe it might go a totally different direction. It's a tough call.
Right now, somebody owns that property.
Correct.
Southern
401-008.
401-008.
And that person, to my understanding, is not coming before you and saying, I would like it to have this classification.
Correct.
A particular classification. They have not made a request for the planning commission to consider something different. They've just identified this issue, but have not come to you and say, I would like to have this designation on my property.
Correct.
And right now, it's zoned utility.
Future land use,
Is
utility.
Future land-
It's zoned railroad freight yard.
What's the current zoning on that one?
Railroad freight yard.
That's the current zoning?
Yes.
Looking right at the
And,
map. right
and that's what's on the future land use map.
Well, it's utility on the
Utility
future
on
land
the
use
future
map, which
land
would
use.
incorporate a similar use.
And it's zoned that way because there's always the possibility that becomes a working rail line.
I believe the parcel used to be owned by the railroad, and then they did a split. I recall when I was in assessing years ago that there was a split in this area that came up with this weird-shaped parcel. And I believe at that time, it probably sold, and it became private ownership, and no one ever sought to rezone it.
So the concern is that the private owner builds something on there with it being zoned utility?
You wouldn't be able to.
It was just a random phone call. Somebody studying the future land use map, it was a random phone call saying, I see this property, and I know it's privately owned, and I think it's unusual that your future land use shows utility owned. And I said, and I double-checked and found it was privately owned and said I would present it for you to determine whether that's the way you want it to stay or whether it should be something else.
And the previous classification on the master plan was residential medium density,
Correct.
single-family residential medium density. So that could be an approach to go back to what the previous master plan had.
I wonder if that's the ulterior motive, to get that rezoned as it was before. For
We're
whatever
not, you're
reason.
not rezoning it, you're talking about your
Changing the
future
master
land
plan.
use.
Sorry, you're right.
They would then have to come in and ask for a rezoning on the property.
Right. I'm sorry, that's.
Well, and keep that in mind, if somebody, whoever owns it, if they don't want to do a use in railroad freight yard, then they're going to have some type of rezone, and what we'd be looking, or you'd be looking at the future land use, and you'd see the future land use as railroad freight yard. Excuse me. Or utility owned.
The railroad's coming through.
Any thoughts?
Might seem simpler to me just to revert back to what it was. Broad suggestion,
On the previous master
Option.
plan?
in the previous master plan, yes.
The active one right now.
I mean, the one that's, yeah, one that's
Yeah,
in
the one that's
existence
not
right now.
been, yeah. And that was single family, you said,
Medium density.
medium density?
If they want to do something, they come back to us, to get the property rezoned, if necessary.
I don't think this requires a motion, just a consensus.
Yes.
There be consensus to retain the current master plan designation for that parcel of property.
Yes.
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 Okay.
Get there eventually.
Done.
All right. Also, if I could,
No, no alsos.
no, not on this property. Also, if I could, there were a number of letters, as you mentioned, that we received, some from the county and some from others that identified some corrections that would need to be made, more like factual corrections, not policy changes. So I just want to let you know that we will make those in the draft that you will see for the public hearing, and we'll give you a list of those changes that are being made so that those are incorporated.
Thank you.
So that's being taken care of and will be in that draft, and you'll have that so that you update it. But these are just factual information, like if a right-of-way was supposed to be 66 instead of 60,
Right.
those types of things. We're making those kind of changes, and those will be in your final draft.
Thank you. Any other thoughts on that issue? Not moving right along, under item 9 on the agenda is public comments. Anybody would like to make public comment? You have 3 minutes.
Is this fun, anything?
Name and address, please.
Catherine Kennedy at 690 Rochester. And this morning at 11 a.m., I attended the coordinated zoning committee meeting for the Oakland County Board of Commissioners, where I advised them that we had the public hearing for the citizens tonight. And they approved the draft board master plan for Orion Township, even though we have not participated with them. Oh. Should I start over?
Yeah, start over again.
Yes.
Okay. Catherine Kennedy from 690 Rochester Drive, Lake Orion. I attended the Oakland County Coordinated Zoning Committee meeting this morning at 11 a.m., where 2 members voted to move, second, and approve the Orion Township Master Plan, in spite of me letting them know that the Orion Township citizens had not yet had a public hearing about the plan, which I found extremely disconcerting. This particular plan needs to be rejected in its entirety. It is based on urbanization of our region against what the citizens want. People did not participate, the everyday citizens were not invited to participate in the development of this project sufficient to make it valid to what the community wants or needs. And I would take you to a couple of things. First, I want to make sure, I actually FOIA'd documents that I've been declined by the county because in an unrecorded Democratic caucus meeting is when I found out that they had changed the entire tax foreclosure process to online only through a different contractor, and it expected to be done by August 12th. Any community that had not already participated in a first right of refusal with Oakland County could expect all their foreclosed properties to be sold at that auction unless you had such an agreement with the county. It's an online company I never heard about. It's very concerning. I even attended a Global Detroit webinar this past week where they're teaching people to use our resources, even HUD, to house the refugees and rent to the refugees, even if they don't have Social Security, not to worry. The resettlement groups will fund them for 5 years as they get comfortable, since their priority is jobs and housing. And they even specifically mentioned the rental program that was adopted on August 24th of 21, where if you rent to people that would not be eligible to be rented to, the county taxpayers will pay each landlord $3,000 each if they have damages. In this webinar, they even suggested that some people are reluctant to rent to people before they have Social Security numbers because then they don't have a way to collect if there's an issue. So maybe you should just reduce the lease to 3 months. I find that entire attitude appalling, and I find so much of what is encompassed in this master plan caters to the World Economic Forum, Global Detroit, which is an arm of the World Economic Forum. We've been picked as the guinea pigs for the region to demonstrate this social experiment that if you implement the poor into the other neighborhoods, then we can make it all equal. And that's the UN version of green energy, which Oakland County has adopted after hiring ACOM to determine that we should see no poverty as the #1 way to fix the climate change environment. Illogical, totally, but that is what we're dealing with, and we must reject this entire plan because it enables the takeover of our region for the globalist agenda. There's the globalization of our area. They don't care about the wetlands, they don't care about the woodlands, and if you go to page 124 and 125, the thoroughfare plan for the roads, you
Okay,
can't have a
could you-
highway on
Could you begin to
Lapeer.
wrap up your comments?
Yes, I'm sorry. So they have highways where there isn't room, there isn't a place to put a highway. We had a problem already with Buckhorn Lake where they put the road too far into where the lake used to be. For first time, and I've been here since '98, it flooded, and they actually were pumping water out of the lake to put into the sewer system. So this is a displacement issue. You can't put concrete where there used to be cement. You can't build wetlands and fill it in. You get a flood zone. It's really common sense. God had it right. Let's please leave it alone. Thank you. We need to protect it.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else under the public comment section that would like to speak?
Hi, my name is Tina Hine. Did you need my address too?
Yes.
630 North Blocky Court. And I would just like to basically touch upon what Catherine said. Lake Orion, since I've lived here, it's basically, you get 2 in 1. You know, you have the rural and you have kind of like a city. And I definitely agree that we need to keep it that way. We do not want too much. You guys are very familiar with Lapeer, and just driving on that road, if you're not driving 60, 70, sometimes even higher, you're going to get run over. Last year, we had a huge problem with flooding. we had a freak storm last year where we had 7 inches of rain in like 1.5, 2-hour period. Basements flooded, the schools, it was a nightmare. A bus flooded. So, and then Lapeer Road was all flooded over. It was a nightmare. And in the area where I live, people had to pump out their basements. The Buckhorn Lake was overflowed onto Lapeer, onto Clarkston, and I've seen those signs up. So I'm assuming where they have the zoning changes proposed, that's where they plan on doing this. Putting, from what I heard, what I spoke with the lady, she said that they're gonna put duplexes and stuff there. So that's, I don't think that's a good idea. You know, I think we definitely have enough. You know, we wanna definitely keep it where you get that, you know, kind of city feel and rural, kind of 2 in 1, so. And gosh, what else do I, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else that would like to speak?
Hi, my name is Ed Morosky, and the comment that I have is I may be coming late to the party here for this master planning, but I think there should be some, I should be able to come into this meeting and see something on the board of what's really going on. You guys are discussing things, and there's just no way for somebody as myself to see what's happening. So either something should be passed out ahead of time as we come in, or you should have something on the board for us to, any of the public to come in and see. Because it just feels like a closed party, you guys talking, and we don't know what's going on.
Okay. There were public sessions where the public was invited. We had the boards, just as you're talking about, available. But unfortunately, you were not made aware of that somehow, so.
Yeah, you could get it on a computer here like that.
Okay,
Yeah, that'd be great. That would help us a lot.
thank you for your
Thank you.
comments.
Will we have boards up on the 20th for the public hearing?
I don't know.
Yeah, sir, let me just, you came in a little late to the meeting today. On the 20th, there was a mistake in the notification of the public hearing for the master plan. It's actually taking place on July 20th. And at that time, our planner, who worked with us closely to develop the master plan, will be making a presentation reflecting the very current version of the plan and all of the changes and things that have taken place over the last few weeks.
I'm sorry, just want to interject just once. There was not an error in the public notice. Public notice said the public hearing is the 20th, which is when it is. So.
Okay, well, my mistake, Tam.
Communication or misunderstanding. It was noticed that the public hearing is the 20th.
Okay. So you came in late. That was announced at the beginning of the meeting.
My name is Ray Malskus. I'm at 333 West Greenshield. Interesting discussion, but the question that the First Lady asked hasn't been answered. She was at some kind of a meeting, and it said that they have approved the master plan. Have you answered that question?
Ron?
You'd like me to respond, because I was at that meeting this morning. This was the County Coordinating Council. This is a group that is made up of the county. The way the state statute works is that before you approve your master plan, it has to go, if you're a township, it has to go to the county. And the county has to act, and then they can, in fact, make suggestions. They don't approve your plan per se, but they make suggestions about how they feel issues that might affect bordering communities or county policies. So in accordance with state statute, it went there before you acted upon it, because that's what the state statute requires. And then they made a recommendation to you, which you have, and that's part of the normal process. It's part of that 63-day review period where surrounding communities, as well as various reviewing entities, are given the opportunity to review the draft master plan, and then you'll have all that information before your hearing on the 20th. So this is in accordance with state law, what was done today. Nothing was done out of order, and hope that answers the question.
So to answer your question, nothing's been approved.
So for the layman, does that mean that the county has said, we approve this overall plan? It is now up to the locality, Orion Township, to decide how they want to amend or accept that plan?
The county's action is that it is not inconsistent with county policies. That's how they approve it. They're not a body that approves the township's plan. That's not the way it works. The township approves its own plan. What they do is look at, does it conflict with county policies, and are there any issues with bordering communities? And they found that there were no issues other than the 3 suggestions they made in the letter that was in the draft that's in the packet tonight.
And then when we have the hearing on the 20th, then any kind of suggestions, changes, whatever, can be included to the final master plan. Is that correct?
The master plan is under the planning commission and is up to them to make, approve it and adopt it as it currently exists, or they can amend it if they see fit.
So bottom line is, when we come here on the 20th and make comments, we aren't just spitting in the wind.
That's what the public hearing is for.
That's what I'm asking. Is the public hearing actually have any kind of teeth?
If you're asking if we pay attention to the public's comments,
Yes.
whether it's about our master plan or about any other case that comes before us where there's a public hearing opportunity, if you've watched us over the last several years, would have seen that we take public comment very serious.
Okay.
And one of the things you'll learn about at the next meeting, at the public hearing, is all the opportunities for public input that have been presented to this community throughout this process. So that'll also be covered in the presentation.
So then I will ask one more question, just as the gentleman there did. Is there anything that can be looked upon by us, either online, by book, by picture, by anything, to even have an idea of what we're talking about?
It's been online for 63 days.
The draft has been online. It's on the website.
It's on the website?
It's been on for 63
On the
days.
front page.
I went on the website, and all I could find is Master Plan 2019. Is that it?
That's when we started it.
I'm sorry?
That's when we started it, was in 2019.
So, again, if I want to look at what you're looking at, where do I go to get that? Because I went online,
OrionTownship.org. I'm going
I
to
went
answer
on
that
planning,
question.
And all it had was Master Plan 2019.
OrionTownship.org. That's the
where I
front
went.
page of the website. If you scroll down, you will see 4 tiles. One says election information, one says master plan update, one says public notices, one says online payments. If you click master plan update and you scroll down, you'll find a link at the bottom, ways to get involved. Draft master plan. Click that link, it's there. The entire thing.
Okay, that's not what was on there before, because you'd had departments, you went to department, it went to zoning, planning and zoning, and then it had under that, master plan 2019. That's what was on there.
I'm
2 days
happy
ago.
to show you on, like, I can show you after this if you would like exactly how to get to it. I have no problem with that.
Great.
Sir, if you would prefer a hard copy, you can contact the planning
Well, I have the
department.
feeling the hard copy is probably this big.
It's a couple 100 pages long,
Yeah, I
whatever it is,
figured
but
that.
I
No,
understand sometimes it's easier to review a plan in a hard copy.
Oh,
I do
definitely.
that all the time.
Many of us
But
did.
if you could show me how to
And
get
I will
there.
do that, absolutely.
Thank you.
I would like to add something else to that, and I would like to preface what I'm going to say with, thank you very much. I have gone over all of the emails that have been sent tonight. We all do that, we all read them, and I read them as well for the Board of Trustees meeting because I am the rep to the Board of Trustees. I read all of them. We have hundreds of pages, we go through them, and I just, tonight, want to address one in particular, one thing that was said in particular. Someone said that doing the 5-year master plan without getting public opinion is wrong. In 2021, we had workshops at 6 o'clock, once a month, well, not once a month, but I'm going to name all of the meetings that we had. 6 o'clock, together that were open to the public. There were meeting notices that went out to Orion Review. They were put out on the website in various places. But our workshops, where we talked specifically about master plan, were February 17th, March 17th, April 21st, July 21st, August 18th, September 15th, October 20th, November 17th, and December 15th of 2021. And in 2022, we had a workshop January 19th and February 16th. Those were all 1-hour meetings before our Planning Commission meetings. We had an open house on June 16th at the Orion Center. That was our first open house, and that was a couple hours before a Planning Commission meeting. And after that, we immediately launched an online participation option. All of these have always been listed on the front page, oriontownship.org, and then again on the Planning Commission or the Planning and Zoning site. Those have always been there. If you have social media, they've been on Facebook. Our Township Supervisor, Chris Barnett, has announced at 2 different State of the Township addresses that we are in the process of doing this. And the last open house that we had was here on May 18th. We have been begging people to help us with this. I promise you, we've always wanted input. And we have given ample opportunity. We've even talked about it outside of the workshops within Planning Commission meetings. We're open to hearing suggestions. It breaks my heart that people think that we don't care about input because we have been asking for a year and a half. So I just wanted to clarify that particular comment in that particular email. We have been working very hard. I have taken home hard copies of this plan, and I have marked them up with pens, and other people have looked at them. We've taken our time, our personal time, outside of Planning Commission to read this stuff. We really have been asking for input. So to hear people say that we haven't listened or that we haven't asked for it, really, it breaks my heart, because we have, on multiple occasions. And we will still listen to you. And there are other things within these letters that I'm quite frankly confused about. I don't know what some of the stuff that you're talking about is. None of us work with the county. We work here in this township. And we've been doing this for a long time. And the stuff that we're talking about on Baldwin Road has been going on since 2016 and has nothing to do with the current administration at Oakland County. Nothing at all. We've been talking about development in this capacity, in this way, for a long time. And now it feels like we're getting, I've circled things, external influence, WEF, Globalist of World Economic Forum. I have children at home. I don't have time to sit and talk about World Economic Forum stuff. I don't focus on that when I'm doing this. I live in Keatington, and I am not involved. I'm not personally involved in any of that stuff. I don't even know what it is. It has no bearing on the things that I have been thinking about in making this plan. None of it. And I'm only speaking for myself, but I know these people very well. And we're thinking about, Joe thinks about, I've only been here for 25 years. Joe's been here, I'm not gonna say your age, but
40.
There you go. I mean, we all care about this as much as you do. We do. But there are things that we are bound by. People own land. They're allowed to build on it. And we're doing our best to make sure that everybody is going to be happy with the compromise that we are tasked with making. And we are doing our best at it. And I will remind you, I've seen a lot of things in here about apartments and this, that, and density and all of that. I'm going to remind you that just recently we sent a recommendation for denial for a large complex on Walden. And it went to the board, and I know some of you were in that meeting and you heard the board deny it as well. It didn't fit, it was too dense, we weren't okay with it. So we are thinking about you and your opinions. We are. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Come up to the podium, please. You're being recorded, that's why I got to come back up.
What percentage of people in Lake Orion get to Lake Orion Review?
All of them do now, actually, because it was just bought out by another organization, but I
I
mean.
just don't think that's really a good venue, a good
It
way
also,
to
it also
serve-
has been in the quarterly magazine, the Orion Living magazine, that is mailed to every household in this township, and it is free to everybody, and it comes in your mailbox. Orion Living,
There's an Orion, my wife picks up the mail, so I don't often see it, so,
hiding it from you.
yeah.
It's in there as well.
It's in a magazine, all this, what you were talking about?
We have used
I'm sorry, I
every
haven't seen it,
avenue
and
possible.
I just don't look at the website,
You know, and
I'm willing to
this-
help.
of course, but
I'm sorry, Kim.
Sorry.
I guess I'll
And
pay
this,
more
this
attention
year,
to it.
this year was that there was also a story in the Oakland Press about the master plan
Okay.
and the public, opportunities for the public. I placed it myself.
We made him.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to, if anyone's watching from home, demonstrate how to find the master plan on our website, please. Is that okay? Because I know you said you'd show them afterwards, but I can show, and anyone watching at home, so on your control, you could put on the north, and then I can have my screen showing. Kim, can you do that? And then I can show you where it is. So this is our homepage, sir. And I think what you were saying is if you went under departments.
No.
and-
Oh, yeah.
Let me
sorry.
finish. And
Sorry. Passionate at the moment.
departments, and then you went to planning and zoning, there is Master Plan 2015, which is the 15, which is the current. There's not anything about a 19, there's the Master Plan 15, where you can find the proposed is on the homepage. There's right here, Master Plan Update. You click on that, and from there, follow your prompts, and you're able to look at the draft master plan. And that's the difference. One is the existing from 2015, and one is the draft. So anyone at home wanting to look at it prior to the public hearing at the next meeting on the 20th is able to find it under the homepage, under the tab for the master plan.
Thank you, Tammy.
You're welcome.
Very
Thank you.
good.
Excuse me?
Tammy, can.
Yep, so from the homepage, you've got draft master plan right on the homepage.
Right on the home.
Right on the homepage, right there. Okay?
Okay. Thank you very much. We will continue with our agenda then under communications. As indicated, we have a number of,
No, hold on,
We had another comment.
okay.
it's still light out.
Come on up.
I just want to see if we had more time for comment.
Ma'am.
Sandy
hold the-
Walker,
hold the thing down.
2565 Mueller Road. I'm sorry if you got offended by what these folks have said. We appreciate everything that you guys do. Like you said, you read things, you take it home, and I can understand that. I ran for these positions before. I've been here my whole life, and I've seen this whole township change in 60 years. So I want you to know, we do thank you. And I'm sorry that I didn't know about all this until recently. I still work all the time, and I do other things, so I did not keep up with what was going on here. So I will read that. I will be back July 20th. I will write a letter so that you all have it in your book over there that you have. I will tell my neighbors about this that I just found out about. But I just didn't, I felt like you got offended, and I'm sorry, we didn't mean to offend anybody by giving our comments or our lack of knowing what happened. It's kind of like, your neighbor comes up to you and says, what, you didn't know about this or that? Because, they read it on Facebook or something. Well, no, I've been working 8 hours, and I haven't seen Facebook to know what's happening in the neighborhood. So, we just didn't know, so we're sorry.
I'm not offended.
Okay.
I ran for office, and I'm doing this job because I am the same as you. I have kids that were in marching band, and I'm executive director, interim executive director at the Chamber of Commerce right now. I understand, I get it. I mean, I'm not offended, and I really don't want anyone else here to think that I am vilifying anyone for not knowing, because that's not what I'm doing. I just want to point out, like, communication is key, and if you want to know, like, email us, you know? I read all of them. You have concerns. There are other concerns here too that we can address. That, you know, I mean, I'm not offended, and I don't want you to be either.
Two words of advice. Don't believe everything you see on social media. If you have a question about something, contact the folks at the township. Or if you see one of us, ask us or whatever. Not everything on Facebook, as you all know, is factual and the truth all the time. It's something we just have to live with. I just want to make one other point. I think Ms. Kennedy has made comments multiple times about the World Economic Forum. I can tell you, we started this process in 2019. It is now July of 2022. Not once has the World Economic Forum in name or organization or what they stand for or anything have had any influence on us whatsoever as we've developed this master plan. This is about our community and only about our community, and no outside organization like that has had any influence whatsoever on anything that's in that plan today. And I stand by that plan 100%. I've lived here a long time, and I understand the challenges, the concerns, the frustrations, the challenges we all face as we try to balance progress with tradition and historical character of our community. To Kim's point earlier, and to all of my PC members and the trustees, it's a matter of compromise as much as possible, while still respecting personal property rights and the law, quite frankly. So, but we do welcome everybody's comments and input at all times, not just when we're doing the master plan, but also at public opportunities when we're looking at cases and so forth. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, we take it very serious. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Catherine Kennedy again. I'm actually very concerned, and I don't want to offend you, but I honestly believe that even the commissioners do not have the full handle of what is going on, because ad hoc committees are not recorded. Democratic caucus committees are not recorded, even though they act entirely as executive committees at Oakland County. So unless you figure out those things and attend these different ad hoc committees or create a team of citizens like I apparently have by accident, you have no idea what's going on at that level because it's not recorded. So whatever they subject you to is the minutes is whatever it is. And if you were not there and saw it firsthand to go, wait a minute, that's not even what happened, we have a problem. And I have a real concern with transparency at the Oakland County level. I have been paying attention to meetings since April 28th of 2021, when it caught my attention. We were leasing a building in Pontiac for over 12 grand a month to store PPE and other government functions that citizens would not be allowed to know. This is a real concern. We actually have an airport lease that the citizens pay 100% for in Waterford, and it is a 10-year lease to U.S. Border Patrol. They said, oh, yeah, it's normally costs us $50,000 a year to operate it, so we should be fine within that. They just said, oh, the money's in the budget. There is no accounting for it, yet it was approved in a committee that can't approve something more than $250,000. In my calculation, even if it's only $50,000 cost, which I don't believe, 10-year lease is $500,000. You're double your authority. Oh, but we'll just push it in a meeting while we have so much confusion because we did a mask mandate the same day we changed all the systems. August 24th, 2021. Not only did we create a rental program for people that couldn't qualify, maybe didn't have credit. And then after hearing a webinar from Global Detroit about how not to worry, that's one of the barriers for the refugees to resettle in our area. They've even created a MISHDA database that you could type in the city if you're a refugee to see what city you want to live in. And someone even said, I think it was a resettlement person agency, it was a presenter, said, oh, well, don't worry. We can work it out. We'll make sure to be with them so you don't have to worry about if you're a landlord. We'll make sure they can cover, because we'll fund them for the first 5 years and ensure a smooth settlement. Now, this is a real problem for me. I have no problem with legal immigration. Some of my closest friends are immigrants from other countries. But I do have a problem with an illegal invasion that's being funded at our backs with our money, with our taxpayers paying the price as we're entering into recession.
We appreciate your insight on the Oakland County issues.
So I really just want to make sure people are with their wide open eyes and ears to pay, because we're at very big risk right now, is my assessment of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, we'll move right along. We have no other communications. There's a planner's report on a MTA conference in Frankenmuth.
Yeah, I put that under there when I think you might have received it actually mailed to you, but encourage it. Some of them are direct topics that affect us. Bavarian in Frankenmuth is close, so I encourage it. Again, MTA, we have a membership. Now, if you're actually physically going, I think it's a different charge. Some of these we can actually order to be viewed after the fact. So if anything's ever presented to you on a class and you're not able to attend, but it sounds like an intriguing topic, please reach out to me. A lot of times I am able to get the information to view at your leisure.
Thank you. We have no committee reports. The future public hearings is as I indicated earlier, the master plan at 7:05 on July the 20th. As the chair, I have no comments. Commissioners?
No comments.
Nothing.
I'm good.
I just want to reiterate that I'm not offended and I don't want to offend anyone, so.
Derek?
No comments.
Okay. With that, look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
Motion support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.